friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 176. Today is Friday, November 14th, 2025. I'm Emily Williams in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Thanks so much for joining me. It's a gorgeous day today, as you can see, and it's going to be a beautiful weekend. It's going to be around 65 today and 70 tomorrow, which is great because we're having a retirement party for my friend Cindy tomorrow, and we hope to have it be at least partially outdoors, which I think is going to be very possible with the weather forecast. Yeah, there's going to be food, which I've been making. In fact, I don't know if you can hear in the background, the fan of the oven is on because I made brownies a little while ago, and I'll make some more later. But the oven, when you turn it off, the fan still runs. I guess I don't know why, but anyway, it does. We'll get to that later. Flosstube means cross stitch primarily. Variety show means something else, and we'll see what it is. Cross stitch. So I worked a little bit on Harriet salt. About, I think, only one day and maybe a little while in the next morning to finish a thread. But what I did, so this is the width of it. But I did some more of that four-sided alphabet down there, and then I filled in some letters above that. You know, when will I ever get this straight? I really love this. I was strongly tempted. Hands Across the Sea just announced that they've released another sampler, which is in reds and greens. It's very pretty. It was just announced today. You can go to their website and see it. And I was tempted to buy it, but I should just get it's similar to this in a way, smaller, but it has beautiful alphabets in red and green, not just red, and then it has motifs similar to the ones that are at the bottom of this sampler. And I have not bought that chart. It's not a limited edition or anything, so I don't need to buy it right away. Emily, don't buy it. Don't buy it, because you can buy it later, right? Yes. And I also have been working on Margaret Hutton. At one point I thought I'd finish this year, but I don't think I will. But it's getting a lot closer. I mean, who knows? The thing is, I look at the main stitching in it and I think, oh yeah, I could definitely finish this year. I don't have much to do. But there's a lot of overwon crowns and initials in there. And as I've mentioned before, I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do about that, if I'm going to use her family's initials, a lot of whom seem to be I, H, or just what. But anyway, I worked on that tree that's underneath the peacock and those two little animals, a dog and something, rabbit maybe, and started on the little hump of ground underneath it. And then on the other side, there's the same thing, a mirror image, including the same animals. And I think that is it, except for the border and all of the crowns and initials. So it is really definitely within reach. I don't think it'll be done in 2025, but it'll be done very early in 2026. This is 36 count Muddy Duck with a Versoie, Soie d'Argent. And I have Soie 103s for the over one in the same colors. I do like that. I worked some on Bertram Savile Ogle. And again, this is another one that's very much within reach. I worked on the lower border and I put in the word Denke. Above Denke goes a pistol, and on the other side is mine. That means think of me. And then his name and the border, and that's all. Then it'll be done. Very cute. Such a cute little sampler. The border is not just the Greek key. It's also that single line of stitching that I haven't done. I mean, I've done it on the top. Such a dramatic border. So that's been fun. And of course, Hannah Green. Here's the whole thing. I did some more of the green lawn, and I finished up the border down here. All of the 4 colors are in that border, and I put some of the stems in, started on that carnation that's, which hand am I moving? This carnation. And I put in this vertical tree stem because along here, on both sides, at the lawn level, are these houses, these little yellow houses that have a tree over them. So here's the one on the other side. So I put that in, and I was going to immediately start working on the yellow house, but I decided I should finish out the border. I don't know why. I could do anything. I can do anything I want. There's no police. So my hope is to finish this still by March 1st. I have one more line of the verse. I have her name and age and so forth, and I have a bunch of over 1 birds in the center here. That's all the over 1 part left. And I have these roses, trees, and birds that are on top of the lawn, filling in the lawn, and of course this massive house. I think it's very doable. And the little yellow house. I think it's doable. And once I finish Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather, this will become a real focus, this Hannah Green, to get caught up again. March 1st is the goal. This is 36 count, Just the Ticket by Tabbycat. And I'm using the DMC 2/1. And then this is the piece I am going to finish. You know, I have this big party I'm giving tomorrow. Once that party is over, here it is in its everything. Obviously, the part that's not finished is over here, but it's really, oops, what in the world? It's really, so much is finished. Some shadow is being cast here. There's a lot of individual stitches still, and there's that big section of blue, which I'm sort of leaving for last, I think. So when I sit down to work on it, I put my hoop in a certain place and I work on whatever is easy to reach from that place. And I've been doing, I did about 800, close to 800 stitches since 750 maybe, since last week. And I have about 1,200 to go. And that was not working on it. I mean, I worked on it every day. So I guess that's, but I stopped when I still had stitching time left and turned my attention to something else. So you can't really tell all the places that there are individual stitches remaining, but partly because there's so much gray in the marble and the fabric is almost the same color as a lot of it. But it's really just, I mean, I marvel that you can see clearly, especially in the camera, which means from an appropriate viewing distance, you can see the people it's really a remarkable thing how cross-stitch can render a realistic scene, I think. So those are the things I worked on. I was pretty pleased to have touched 5 things, and some of them quite significantly, during this week when I've had a lot going on. I have a little bit more baking to do of lemon cookies that I gave the recipe last week, so you can look in the description field last week. Boy, they're really good. I made oat cakes, which is basically, that's what we call them. It's basically a shortbread cookie with oatmeal added to it, so it has it's much more healthy, right? You know, butter and sugar and flour and oatmeal, butter, sugar, flour, and a little salt. I think that's all. Seems to me I might be forgetting something. Oh, a little water. Making brownies now, as I said, Tar Heel brownies. I have to glaze the lemon cookies. Oh, I made a lot of sausage balls. Those are good. So anyway, those are all the fun things. And in a moment, my husband might be arriving, but perhaps he'll just hold back for a little while. So, variety show. Besides me talking about that, I thought I'd talk about a few other things. First of all, I meant to pull this out and mention this that Carol gave me in Swindon. I use this every single day, every day. And it usually has in it my Kahana scissors that Peggy and Patrice gave me last year, because I put the scissors in there and I put my thread of whatever I'm working on. But what I thought I would talk about, because I'm sort of in a recipe mode, and as we approach the holidays, we all are maybe more in recipe mode than we are in the regular part of the year, is a series of cookbooks called Savor the South, and this is published by UNC Press, University of North Carolina Press. And so they come as individual cookbooks about individual ingredients. So this isn't the whole set. There are many more, but I'll show you the ones I have right here. I have a couple upstairs. I realized when I was pulling these out of the cabinet, why are they upstairs? Don't ask. But here's Bacon by Fred Thompson. Fred Thompson wrote a book called, I think he wrote the book, something about sides, but bacon. I mean, the whole book that has recipes for bacon, including, so side dishes spiced with bacon, bacon at the center of the plate, sandwiches, and then candy and little bites that have bacon, and information at the beginning of it about bacon. What the different types of bacon and so on. I'm gonna save that one, these couple. Here's one all about pecans, or pecans, as you say, as one might say. So pecans can be savory or sweet, so there's salads and pecan-crusted chicken and trout, and then there, of course, toffee and orange cherry pecan bread. Now this is something I wanted to make. It has pecans and dried cherries and a ground up orange, or a zest. Let me just see. Yeah, it's the zest and the juice from a medium orange, and buttermilk, so that's gonna give it a little bit of a punchy flavor. But anyway, beautiful book. These books are not they don't major on photographs. They are recipes and good, very good method. So it's not a book to browse through for picture book. Now, how could you make a whole book about biscuits? One could ask. Well, this is by Belinda Ellis. Yes, there are all these biscuits. There are ways to make biscuits bigger, different flavors, goat cheese, garlic and herb biscuits, buttermilk biscuits, tea biscuits. Oh, here's lazy biscuits. They must be drop biscuits, right? Yeah. And I actually haven't used this cookbook much because I make biscuits using the recipe on the white lily flour bag. And there, except I add about a tablespoon or so of sugar. Peaches, the whole cookbook on peaches, that is easy to understand. Again, there's savory and baked items for peaches and a lot of desserts, I'll say. But this is by Kelly Alexander. And then there's this book, Southern Holidays, by Debbie Moose. And this is not all desserts, although you might think it would be, but it's catfish and Passover meals, St. Joseph's Day, March 19th. It's based on the holiday. So, for instance, here's one, Moravian sugar cake. Let me just look at that. Yeah. Oh, I was going to show you the recipe. I shouldn't probably, but I have a recipe for Moravian sugar cake, which is from a woman who was a neighbor of the mother of one of my good friends. And her name was Mrs. Wazis or something like that. And I have made that, and it is very Moorish. It's a yeast bread, a sweetened, enriched yeast bread that you make flat. It's sort of like focaccia, except it's not as coarse as focaccia is. It's not as airy. It's more smooth, more tender. And then you dimple it, and you melt butter and put melted butter and cinnamon and I think brown sugar on the top of it, and then you bake it. Let it rise a bit and bake it. And it's very, very Moorish. I've made some and gave it to friends who were taking a road trip. And I said, here, I'm giving you this. It's fresh out of the oven. You need to wait, at least a half an hour before you eat any, but that you could tear some off and eat it on your trip. But I thought you might enjoy it for breakfast tomorrow. Well, they texted me after about an hour and said, yeah, it was barely, we didn't let it cool hardly at all, and it's gone. So anyway, it's very good. But this is the book on bourbon. Kathleen Purvis, who also wrote the Pecans book, and I think she may have written another book in this series. And I think I mentioned to you, maybe recently, that there's a recipe in here for beer and bourbon beef stew, which I use Guinness in. It says, this dish is like bringing Irish stew to the South, just the thing for a chilly fall night. And it includes a half a cup of bourbon. So it makes 6 servings. And it includes half a cup of bourbon and a half a cup of a stout. And I don't use stout per se. I use Guinness specifically. And it is so good. And you might think, well, there's not going to be any flavor of the beer in there. You don't really need the beer. It really does make a difference. It's sort of a sweetness to it. This recipe includes mushrooms, which of course I don't use, but I'm sure that would be delicious as well. But anyway, this is another really interesting cookbook. And the other cookbooks in the series, I wonder if they're listed. I know there's one on tomatoes, which I have upstairs. Oh yeah, no, that's the index. I'm surprised. Tomatoes, buttermilk, there's a whole book on buttermilk. As they publish them, they increase the listing of what's in there. Pickles and preserves, oh yes, I don't have that one. I would probably like that one. One for sweet potatoes, one for okra. Now I know okra is an acquired taste, probably. And so let me tell you about my experiences with okra. I don't think I ever had seen okra or really maybe even heard of it until I got married. And when we got married in 1982, Byron's family was from the South, from North Georgia originally. And my family was from Michigan and Western New York. So it was very much a north-south thing, difference of culture, of traditions, and so on. We were married up in Leroy, beautiful day. The reception was in my parents' house. I've probably put pictures before. I might be able to put pictures in here now, but that isn't really the point. The point is that the cultural difference between Byron's family and my family also extended to the wedding gifts. And as an example, one friend of my parents gave us some antique crystal sorbet, stemmed sorbet dishes. I mean, they're very special. They're very delicate. They're etched crystal. I mean, it's really pretty. They're up in that cabinet. I should have thought about this and gotten them down, but this is a little bit of stream of consciousness today. And Byron's friends and family of Byron's parents gave us things from their gardens, food. So one woman, close friend of the family, gave us a dozen boxes of those freezer boxes like this of black-eyed peas, already cooked, frozen in these boxes, ready for us to take out of the freezer and heat up. And that wasn't the very first time I'd had black-eyed peas, but it was the first time I'd had it as a main protein source in a meal, and just so delicious. I love black-eyed peas, I discovered. Field peas, same, I think it might have been the same woman, boxes of field peas cooked. You put that on rice with maybe a green vegetable on the side. My goodness, that is delicious, the way she cooked them. And probably there was some ham hocks involved, I'm going to guess, or bacon or something, because it's very typical of Southern beans to have ham or something like that in them, to be cooked with those. But one woman gave us boxes like that of chopped okra that had been breaded with cornmeal and then frozen. And I had no idea whatsoever what to do with this. And Byron's mother said, oh, well, you just take it, don't even thaw it, just take it frozen, get your skillet hot, put some butter or oil in the bottom of the skillet, get that hot, and then open that box in there and just sort of fry it up in the butter. Well, okra, I'd never heard of it. Never heard of this particular cooking method of cooking something straight from a frozen block into a skillet. Let me tell you, it is outstanding. And that's chopped okra. Now, when you go around here to some restaurants, you can get fried okra. I think you can get it as a side at Cracker Barrel. And that is discs or sliced okra, sort of, I'll say discs, because it comes in a pod, and then you slice it maybe 1/2 inch pieces, and that's breaded in cornmeal, breaded though, like a batter, and fried. And that is also delicious. But this was chopped okra with cornmeal, mixed with cornmeal, and then fried. And it came out as crumbly, delicious. There was some seasoning in it too, I'm sure. Salt and pepper at least, and something else. But the problem with okra is that if you cut it and you don't do anything to it, you don't put any breading with it, then you get a viscous liquid out of it. Some people call it slimy. I wouldn't call it slimy. It's not really slimy. It's viscous. It's thick. And that is not pleasant for too many people. So if you're going to prepare okra, you need to do it quickly. I'll bet you that the pickles book in this series has okra, pickled okra in it, because that's a thing. But you need to cut it up and immediately get it in your breading so that it stops that, it coagulates that viscous liquid, and then cook it quickly. Or you can stew it with other vegetables. That's also really popular in the South, I'll say, in the South. And then the viscousness is part of the stew. You know, it's the overall delicious texture of vegetable stew. And that's a great way to eat okra as well. Now, another thing that Granny Fay used to make, Byron's grandmother, was something called soup starter. And soup starter came in a quart jar usually, and it had okra and corn and green beans and tomatoes and onion, I think. Maybe another kind, maybe beans, possibly black-eyed peas or field peas. And it was canned, you know, pressure canned, and shelf, therefore you would just keep it on the shelf of your pantry. And the idea was that you would use that along with some chicken or something to make a soup. But we just ate it as it was, with rice or just in a bowl. It was just so, so delicious. And okra was definitely in that. And that would be more the stewed okra type of okra presentation. So the three main ways I've had okra is stewed okra in something like soup starter, fried okra, either all chopped up the way we were given it as a wedding present, or in the discs, battered and fried at a restaurant, such as Cracker Barrel, or pickled. And pickled okra, one of Byron's uncles used to do pickled okra, and it was outstanding. You don't want to use too mature a pod. You want to use a smaller pod, you know, maybe the size of your finger. And rather than the bigger pods, you know, they can get, you know, 6 or 7 inches long. Those tend to have some tough, sinewy is not the word, stringy bits to the edges of them. But the tender okra pods you can make pickles out of. You leave the cap and the little bit of the stem on when you pickle them. And then when you eat them, you don't eat the cap. But that way you haven't cut the okra, and therefore you don't have that viscous liquid that you have to deal with in some way. So in the grocery stores around here, you can get okra, fresh okra, in the summertime. I would say it's probably late summer is when it starts coming in. But I doubt that you can get fresh okra in all parts of the country unless you grow it yourself, because it's just not, I only associate it with the South. Now, we got married 43 years ago, so perhaps by now it's come north and there's more growing of okra and availability of fresh okra than I remember from my own childhood. But certainly it was new to me in the South. So the fact that there's an entire cookbook on okra, that's quite interesting to me. I may have to look for it. Are these still in print? Probably they are. A North Carolina press probably has them still. I know that they're available in hardcover like these, which my friend Ivis gave me over time. She used to work for North Carolina Press. And they are also available as paperbacks, about the same size, a little smaller. I love the hardcover ones. For one thing, they stay open better. When I decide I'm going to make a coconut king cake, I can make that book stay open better than the paperback. But, So cookbooks, it turns out, in the book publishing business, cookbooks are still sellers, and people buy them as physical books. I imagine these are available as ebooks, but people still buy cookbooks as physical books, and they are often given as gifts. So maybe you can put this in the category of gift ideas. I think these were around $15, maybe less. Of course, that was some time ago. Cookbooks are worth browsing through. They're interesting, and of course you might find your next family favorite recipe that you can never go to your Thanksgiving dinner without. Anyway, that is today's variety show. I don't think I have anything else to tell you. I will be back next week with a video. The next week after that is the week of Thanksgiving. There won't be a video that week. We're going to be doing family stuff Thursday and Friday, and a lot of baking leading up to it. Going to see our son and daughter-in-law also. I mean, they're going to be at the family gathering, and then we're going to follow them home and see them. They have snow. They've had snow in Tennessee, eastern Tennessee. In fact, I'll put a picture here, and if I put chicken pictures at the end, that'll be from their chickens. I think that's probably what I'll do. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that whatever you're stitching you're doing is fun for you. Those of you who are like me, coming down to the end of the year and want to have some finishes, I hope you'll be successful. I might have a finish next week. If not, certainly by my first video in December. I promise. This is really calling to me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Many blessings to you, friends.